And then once you are not pregnant anymore, it's like all of a sudden it goes by in a flash. And so just reflecting on this 6-month milestone, it is wild to me that she is 6 months old. Like, I just don't know where it's gone. But I'm very excited to start her on solids because some ways I feel like this is a little bit of freedom. Freedom's not the right word, but it's like once they can eat a bit of food and they're not totally dependent on breast milk, something really shifts for me. I think I just welcome there being more nutritious, more sources of nutrition than just my body. And this was the turning point last time when I was able to start losing weight. So I'm, in theory, excited about the possibility of that becoming true this time around too. So just lots of big milestone moments and excited for her to start being able to sit and just like do all the things that 6-month-old babies do. And yeah, it's fun and it's chaos, and I welcome having a more mature infant for the next 6 months. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're just about 5 o'clock here. So I'm just checking and making sure that what's happening in Facebook here? Let's see. Making sure we're good to go here. Sometimes the internet at my office is not the most cooperative. Oh, good. Okay. It looks like things are good. Super. So, just a quick reminder for everybody about the challenge that's coming up September 20, I'm not sure I get the dates right here. September 27, 28, 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour long each night. And then the Friday night, October 1st, we're going to just have like a fun 8 p.m. cocktail hour. So I won't be doing my regular Friday Live at 5 on October 1st. I'm going to be doing it at 8 p.m. Eastern instead. And that's when I'm going to announce the winners from the challenge, which is always very fun. So I just like to give everybody a heads up so you guys can block your calendars. I'll post the challenge link here because it's alive now. My husband has revived it. So I'll post that in the comments after I'm done here so that anybody who wants to participate can sign up. And as well, if you want to be on the wait list for my fall program that's going to be starting, the doors will open shortly after that, then you're going to want to sign up for the waitlist in advance if you're thinking you want to participate, because that's the first place where all the details will come out, so you can start getting yourself prepared a little bit earlier for that. But the other reason is that you will have first pick of the spots. Normally I sell 20 30 spots for this program, and this time I'm only selling 10 because I'm changing up the delivery a little bit. So they're going to go fast. So I just intend to offer them first to people on the wait list because those people have sort of raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested. There's obviously no obligation, but if you think this is something you might want, then you're going to want to make sure you get on that wait list. There's going to be a few special perks coming your way as well if you are. Okay. So again, give me the hashtag live, give me the hashtag replay. If you're here, give me the love, the hearts. That just all, increases engagement on these huge social media platforms that are quite a challenge to get engagement on these days. Hey, Jen. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you today about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, or I should say I was going to talk to you about a topic that was very near and dear to my heart, which I call the perfect or bust syndrome. I don't know if anybody can relate to those words just when I say those 3 words, but one of the lovely ladies in my Facebook group reached out to me, and she reached out on behalf of someone else in the group. And I really want to honor her attempt to care and love on somebody else in this group. So I'm changing up the topic. Don't worry. I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about perfect or bust syndrome very soon. I'll give you a little prelude because I totally noticed this about myself yesterday. So yesterday, as my baby's 6-month birthday present, I decided to finally finish decorating her room. And I was tempted to really see there were a few things that didn't work out quite the way I wanted them to, and I was tempted to really see it as like perfect or bust. And I even got into a big fight with my husband and my dad because I didn't think that they had done some things um, as fast as I would have liked them to be done. And I went out for a walk with the baby to take her for a nap, and I came back and I was hoping it would all be finished. And I was thinking like it took me 6 months to get here. I just want this whole thing done. And so what I mean by perfect or bust syndrome is when you have this idea in your mind about the way something will be, and all of your like joy is stolen from you because it's not perfect. And I'll post you some pictures of her sweet room, but like her room is beautiful, and it was totally robbing my joy, this need for it to be perfect. So I was able to move past it by simply shifting my focus to think about the things that I loved about the room. So I really loved the artwork that I had picked out for it, some really unique pieces. I love the fun, like whimsical kind of vibe. I love how the baby was just like blown away by the change in her room. It was so awesome. And, instead of reinforcing the pattern of focusing on, the things that weren't perfect, right? This perfect or bust, I pivoted to focusing on what was right. And the more I focused on what was right, the better I felt about the whole thing. So it was a really powerful thing. So that's my little precursor to talking about perfect or bust. And we can dive more into that again another time. So today we're going to talk about a topic, as I said before, that came from one of the members of this group. So I just want you to think before we start diving into this for a moment about a couple of things. What do you do with your free time? What are your pillars of health? What's required for you to be healthy and well? What do you need to do each week to ensure that you are well? How much downtime do you get? How much sleep? What are your hobbies? What do you do with your friends? How much time do you spend doing things you enjoy? When do you decide whether or not you're going to do something you enjoy each week? The physician who wrote this. Can you do a live at 5 on how to actually fill your bucket up in a restorative way? Notice the word she chose, restorative. How to look at or examine things we each need to be our best self. I think it would be awesome. I had a conversation with someone recently regarding restorative rest, but she has no idea what that is, as it has been abandoned for so long. She's an ICU physician. She's a coroner. She's a maid provider. Her husband is a physician. She's had her kids at home for a year. Her kids are in highly competitive sports, and she has a university position. She doesn't spend time with her friends. She doesn't do her hobbies anymore. I bet lots of people would benefit from this topic since facials don't work. Which is literally my favorite part of the whole thing. Facials don't work. It's true. Facials do not work, you guys. And here's why. Because facials don't address our values, our priorities, our purpose. They don't address our emotional needs. They do not help our brains function better than they ever have functioned before. But don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not hating on the facials. There's nothing wrong with a facial. We just need to be clear that they're more in the category of self-indulgence, things that feel good for us temporarily when we participate in them, than they are true self-care or true restorative care. Okay. So there's a lot to this topic. What do we need to be at our best? What is self-care? How do we create space for this? How do we reconnect to who we are and what we love? I want to start by saying that if you resonate with this 15, 20-minute live on Facebook isn't going to be sufficient to completely reconnect you to all of these things. I'm going to give you some actionable tips, but I want to invite you to my fall mastermind because this is what I specialize in my programs. It's the heart of the work that we need to do if we want to overcome burnout as high achieving women. We're all driven, capable, professional women, But that drive is a double-edged sword, especially if it comes at our own expense and we can never let ourselves rest and we can never connect to what matters to us on an emotional level. I heard a great talk from Jill Bolte Taylor. Do you guys know who she is? She's a neuroanatomist, and she had a stroke and she went on to write about her experience of having a stroke at a young age and what it was like to heal and recover from that. And it's fascinating, the stuff she talks about. Her book is called My Stroke of Insight, which is kind of a genius title. And then it has like a subtitle that's A Brain Scientist's Personal Journey. And one thing she said in this talk that really stood out to me is, although many of us may think of ourselves as a thinking creature that feels, biologically, we are feeling creatures that think. Meaning, we need time and space in our life to feel before we can really think. So, how do we do this? I think we do this by creating rest and blank space in our lives. So let's talk first about rest. Rest is step one in all processes to recovering from burnout. And I'm actually even adding a new module on rest to the curriculum that I teach because I think this is so crucial that we recognize this. We need to learn how to create space for rest and how to make it attractive to our high achiever brain. So the tricky part about this for female physicians is that we don't value rest at the same level as we value productivity, which is, way up here for us, right? Our brains get a big old dopamine hit and we feel really good when we get shit done. And rest is kind of like, womp womp for us. And I'm going to tell you why oftentimes when we try to rest, hello, my friend. When we try to rest, what happens is we feel restless and anxious and agitated. Can anybody relate to this? Give me like a thumbs up or some hearts or a yup in there or a hell yes if you can relate to feeling worse sometimes when you try to rest. Feeling like you constantly need to check your phone, or you're not able to enjoy a vacation, or you don't know how to turn off, or you're like not able to stop thinking about work. It's just always kind of there. Or maybe like you have a hard time getting busy in the bedroom because you're so busy thinking about work, right? We do this. We women physicians, we think a fuck ton about work. And I want you to know there isn't something wrong with you. It's not a fixed trait. Like you're not an overworker by nature. You're not stuck here. This isn't the reason why you are so productive. Okay? You're not just a hardcore human. I literally thought this was just me for so long, you guys. Like, this was just what I thought my identity was. It's who I thought I was in the world. But this is what I've learned, that me and you are simply just humans with brains that have been trained to over-desire work. And when we do, we feel accomplished. We feel like really good, right? We get that dopamine hit and we feel relief from agitation. So it's just like a feedback loop, right? That gives you positive reinforcement to keep doing this again and again and again. But here's why this is a problem. It's because you right now, the you who's stuck like a hamster in the wheel, right? You don't know how creative and innovative and fun your brain can be if you weren't working yourself to the bone all the time. You have no idea what life would be like if you had blank space where you could do the things that you're passionate about in the moment. You don't know what life is like if you actually got enough sleep to feel better than you've ever felt before in your life. Because a rested brain is the most creative problem-solving tool on the planet. It can create anything we decide we want in our lives. I have seen this happen time and time again. I have lived this. It's exactly what Jill Bolte Taylor was talking about when she said we're actually feeling beings that think. So when we feel better, which is what happens when we create space in our life, we let our life breathe a little bit. Think about when you declutter your house, how good you feel. Imagine if you actually did that with your brain, right? Your brain's going to come up with ideas that will make you wonder, is this even really me? Like, who am I? When you give it time to rest, I'm telling you, this is what happens in the lives of people who do this work, in my life, in my clients' lives. You will integrate the right and the left sides of your brain, the emotional and the rational. By the way, this is the left side of my brain and this is the right side. I'm just such a hand talker. And apparently I always talk from left to right. But this is way more important than you think. Okay, so let's get into actionable tips you can take to do this. You can train your brain to value anything. So you can train your brain to want anything. If you want to rest, you need to teach your brain how to desire rest. So think about the way you feel when you go to that spa and you get a facial or you get a massage, okay? Just channel that for a minute with me. Think about that, like nice soft music, the relaxing vibes, the calmness, the lack of noise and chaos in the space around you, feeling peaceful, feeling calm. Or maybe you're going to one of those like beautiful, we have a Scandinavian spa with the baths not far from here. Like, I'm just thinking about what it's like to think about going there into that like sacred and beautiful and whimsical kind of space. Creates like pretty amazing, relaxing vibes, right? Knowing the thoughts that create this for you and starting to apply them to different situations is the key to creating this around other things you want in your life. Okay, or creating more of this, because really we can't go to the Scandinavian spa every day, but we can create a Scandinavian spa like experience. So, for example, one of my clients wanted to sleep more. So we literally talked about her fantasies about sleep. I was like, what would be the most appealing place you could think of to sleep? Like, when you're a parent, some of you will be parents, right? And you'll imagine going and spending a night in a hotel room alone, like you're going to a conference or something like that. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it's the most epic, amazing experience when I get to crawl into that bed alone and no one's touching me and no one's going to wake me up and there's no monitor. And the bed is so comfortable and there's soft sheets and there's darkness and, there's white noise. We just make it totally luxurious and desirable to your brain. The regular experience of sleeping. And guess what happened for her? She started sleeping more. It became more appealing for her to get to bed. Similarly, I had another client who wanted to be able to enjoy more time with her kids, but she always found she was checking her phone. She did a lot of home calling, so it could become pretty habitual for her to have her phone with her. And she was just constantly thinking about checking her social media or checking her phone to see if she'd been called in or she was going to get called in to work. So we worked on training her brain to celebrate the moments that she gets to be at home with her kids, to desire those, to think about how lucky she is when she doesn't get called in, to remind herself that, she can give her phone to her husband and he can just holler out the door to her and say, hey, here's a call, but she didn't need to be constantly on standby, constantly checking it every 5 minutes. So she could sit in the sandbox and play with her kids. Sounds kind of appealing, right? This is how I trained my brain to take Sundays off each week so that I always knew I had one day. And guess what? I'm up in the ante this fall, taking every evening except for one off and weekends. It's going to be fucking awesome, you guys. That is going to be my family time. But I have to make it really desirable, or else my drive to work and do things and accomplish things will take over and I will live in this uncomfortable tension. Now, here's the challenging part about this process. Right now, work has way bigger priority in your brain than this like real, true space for rest and relaxation, this blank space, this, time where you have downtime. So, because you don't have a lot of evidence built up of the value of this rest time in your brain, instead, you have a lot of evidence built up around you feeling anxious and agitated when you try to take time off to rest. You might have to choose to value rest against what your primitive brain is adapted to doing. And that can stir up some anxiety and some urge to, want to work and want to cancel on a friend and want to cancel on the time that you book in your schedule for you. But you have to learn how to allow yourself to have that urge and not act on it. Because if you do that with intention, understanding that this isn't going to be this way forever, it will go away. You will uncouple. You will decrease the amount of dopamine release you get in your brain in response to achievement and accomplishment, and start to increase the amount you get in response to doing other pleasurable activities that are really good for you. And you'll learn how to sit with yourself in discomfort so that you can just turn down that desired dial on work and turn up the desired dial on rest. So, how do you start figuring out what you really need to meet your emotional needs? Because that was the other component about what the person who wrote this post was asking me about, right? To speak about. So, I call it you need to learn your VPPs, your values, your priorities, and your purpose. So, your values are the principles that are most important to you. They are your standards or your ideals with which you evaluate all the things going on in your life. And it's incredibly helpful for you to identify your personal values, because then you can use them to guide you towards activities that are congruent with your values. This is one of the many things we do in my coaching program. And I'm actually creating a whole new module about this because I think it's so important. So, for example, for me, I know I really value compassion, authenticity, self-awareness or self-reflection, introspection, something like that, right? Connection with other human beings. I'm like a extroverted introvert. And I value integrity. So when I focus on my values, I know that I need a balance of time with people and time on my own. And I know I feel best when I show up really genuinely as me, and I don't, try to adapt myself and mold myself into what I think others want of me. And I know I feel really good when I keep my word and I do what I say I'm going to do. And I use these principles to guide what I choose to do with my time and to also decide how to prioritize my time. So I want you to think about the order of your priorities and where you fit into your list. Like, it can be helpful to think about maybe your top 5, okay? Mine are taking care of me, taking care of my family, working as a coach, working as a physician, and then like my hobbies and my extracurriculars and the social things I like to do. Notice how I put myself first on that list now. It's a novel concept for a lot of female physicians to do that, like really novel. It certainly was for me when I started doing this work. And I don't always do it. But in principle, I decided I had to be first on the list, because when I am not mentally, like in my mind, when I'm not first on the list, what happens is I go down a very dark road. And that road took me to the point where I was suicidal. So I know I need to put myself first if I want to survive and thrive and be there for my family. And so, it's become something that is so important to me. I have such a hard why about that. And this like really ties into stuff like values and purpose, right? And the point where they all intersect is where you're going to feel the most fulfilled and the most happy in your life. This is the stuff that people should be teaching us when we become adults before we like go down any, kind of avenue of making big life decisions. So think about your priorities. Write a few of them in the chat if you don't mind sharing. I think it's really important just to write down what comes up when you start to think about this topic. What does it look like for you if you decide to prioritize you? What would you do? How would you feel? What would look different maybe in your life? I know we're just scratching the surface here with this, and I could go on and on about this, and I want to wrap this up because I'm aware of time. But I just want to reassure you that if nothing comes up for you when I say this to you, if you're just like drawing a total blank, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay. I might be asking you to think about some things you haven't thought about in a really long time. So just carve out some time and space for yourself to reflect on this. I don't have the answers for you. I don't have a prescription for you about what your perfect self care routine looks like, what your pillars of health look like. But I can help you find them if you need help with this. What I do as a coach is I help ask the questions to get people thinking about this and finding their own answers to this. So I would love to hear back from you. If you have some time to think about this, if you come up with, you can come back to this. If you come up with some ideas, just write them in the comments for this video, and we can connect on this, right? We can, if you hit a roadblock, we can connect on that, and I can give you a few tips, a few questions, a few places to, guide you so that you can find your own answers. So, quick summary, okay? How do we get to this seemingly impossible place where we have quote unquote balance in our life, right? Rest is super important when we have burnout, when we have problems we want to solve in our life, when things feel out of balance, if we want to improve our emotional well being. It doesn't feel comfortable to rest for many of us. So we might have to sit with the discomfort as we deprogram and uncouple the desire to overwork. And then when we start to get some wins, it gets a lot easier. When we start to see the value of the rest, the value of the blank space time, it gets easier to create more of it. We desire it more, it becomes more appealing to our brain. Then in the meantime, we can make it easier by intentionally turning up the desire dial, by thinking some really powerful, compelling thoughts, like the same thoughts you think about the spa, right? Creating appealing stories and appealing imagery. I think a lot about being in my hammock in my backyard, which creates for me the space and time to do that deep thinking that I need to do to keep creating the work that I do in the world. Last but not least, you can incorporate your values, your priority, the purpose you choose for yourself and your work and your life as you're trying to decide how to use your blank space time and make sure that all your needs are met. Okay. I hope this was helpful. Give me some hearts, give me some thumbs up if you found it helpful. And I'm sending big love to all of you, and I will see you next week at this time. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye.